Welcome to Horticulture, where a group of extension professionals and plant people talk about the business, production, and joy of planting seeds and helping them grow. Join us as we explore the culture of horticulture. I just need to share this little piece of information with you all and the wonderful listeners out here.
Such urgency.
Yes.
When you hear it, you'll understand.
Yeah,
Do you know how
you didn't
much
commit a crime, did you?
Are you okay?
I don't want to know.
It's about cheese, people.
Oh, okay.
That's why she's breathing heavily. She always does when she talks about cheese. Always.
Listen, do you know how much protein is in Parmesan cheese? Like, it's a lot. And I just feel like
wood fiber or protein?
Protein in Parmesan cheese.
That makes me feel so much better after feeding my children spaghetti and just piling that Parmesan cheese on top.
I have a block
gains
of Parmesan cheese. And
every morning
for my breakfast as my snack during the day, and I suddenly feel so much better knowing I'm getting so much protein in this little chunk of Parmesan cheese I'm having as my little snacky snack during the day.
Nice.
And it's like, who needs protein bars when you could just have Parmesan cheese?
That's what I'm saying. A block of Parmesan cheese.
A block of Parmesan cheese.
Well, I'm imagining you going to the gym, like the bros have shakers that they're shaking up their pre-workout, but yours is just one of those shakers of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, that
you shaking it and then you just take it.
I imagine you
cough and it's just like a dust.
Out. I love
dust
it.
out into the.
Isn't there a comedian bit that's something similar? Like
I don't know.
Lots of memes where people are.
There is. I just did it.
Challenges, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brent. Sorry.
There is.
No, I just imagine me like walking into a gym, with my gym bag and just like a half a wheel of Parmesan cheese, just kind of like eating it off
Did
the
you
wheel.
say your cheese bag?
Off the wheel.
Like I have a separate bag. It's called my cheese bag.
It's the cheese bag.
I just needed everybody to know that
you could grade it onto a plate.
Important information.
There's no one there to tell you. There's no one to tell you to stop. Like that's not enough. Actually,
it's like going into Olive Garden and then the poor waiter is just like standing there and they keep like putting more cheese turning. And it's like keep it coming.
They think that you didn't hear them when really you did. You're just waiting.
Yeah. I just want a mountain of cheese.
You may want to have a reserve on hand because your arm is going to get tired.
Leave it unlimited, right?
Just leave it at the
Leave the grinder. Leave the grinder.
Leave the grinder. Like leave the bottle, but it's leave the grinder.
Leave the grinder.
Hoagies and grinders.
So anyways, I just wanted to share that because I don't feel like my wonderful life partner appreciates that information as much as he should. So I thought you, the listeners, will. So there you go.
What the bond of marriage could not achieve, the bond of podcast has of affirmation about the protein content of Parmesan cheese.
Yeah. There you go.
And even Parmesan cheese could not make, throwback to last episode, could not make candy corn good.
No.
Oh.
I'm glad that there are others that share my disdain.
I just want to okay. When's the last time you had candy corn?
I try it every year to remind me of the rage that I feel.
They have different flavors now too of candy corn.
There's sadness, sorrow, and regret. There's only 3 flavors.
Oh,
I hate that. How good that was. I'm so mad about it.
The rings on the candy corn are to remind you of the circles of hell.
Gosh.
Candy corn.
Jessica, thank you for not
Dante's candy corn.
with me.
I'm like on the fence about it. I will have a piece, and like I told you, I'll eat it with some peanuts, and it's nice. My husband loves it. He buys tons of it, and of course, my 2 boys love it because it is pure sugar.
Yeah. But sometimes the little pumpkins, if they're fresh, like I don't actively throw up in my mouth with the little pumpkins.
Ray, don't go back on it now. We have drawn a line in the sand.
The only thing they're good for is making vampire fangs under each gum.
A lot of people use them for decoration. Have you noticed that?
I do like the aesthetic of candy corn a lot. I love the way it looks.
Because when I get a bag, I throw it out in the yard.
With candy corn, you eat with the eyes
in
first,
the yard.
And then you stop.
I just throw it in the yard.
In October, I start making candy corn colored themed bouquets. So it's like white, orange, and yellow flowers.
I love the look. I love the nostalgia. I wish they were good.
You have to get the caramel apple ones.
I want to be present for your 2024 trying of candy corn.
I'll do it on the podcast. How about that?
Okay.
I won't chew into the microphone because I know people hate that. But
Well, maybe it's an ASMR moment. So
I don't think so.
Gagging is not an ASMR.
I think that's misophonia. Is that what that's called? When people hate like the sound of like mouth noises and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah,
it's a whole genre of ASMR.
Yeah,
it's called
this is negative though. Yeah, this is like they will cancel us and give us a 0-star review.
We do. We cannot.
Speaking of colors,
I like that.
candy corn.
Yeah, there you go.
I was like waiting. I was like, he will not steal this from me. The colors
I will not.
Often reminds me of the colors of fall trees, of the splendor of autumn. And I don't know about you all, those yellows and oranges, maybe a little bit of purples and reds thrown in there.
Yeah.
We're talking about fall trees today. If you haven't figured that out, fall color.
You know, I'm a tree boy.
So who can explain why leaves change color in the fall? Who can give me the science?
The color is always there, and I love that fact.
Shocker.
The colors are always there.
Mic drop.
Yep. That's the one. When we do programs with kids, it's hard to make them believe that. I'm like, no, it's like so many things in life. It's kind of in layers. It's always present. It's just that the dominant color associated with chlorophyll just subsides at a point.
Mm-hmm. And it subsides because the tree stops making food. And so it's like, I don't need this green chlorophyll more. Let my true color shine.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's starting to get cooler, right? And it's telling them it's time to change.
We talk a lot about seasonality on this show, and this is a perfect time to say it once again. But it has to do with that. Different plants have different seasons, and just so happens here in Kentucky, a lot of our plants are very heavy on the seasonality. So you have lots of trees that are not stopping, but slowing down fall and winter season, day length and temperature.
They're pulling those sugars down into that root system. Pulling them down.
Really, it's just the trees being beautiful for us, Alexis. That's truly what it is. Don't get
in your feels about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it was all this functional and informational process, why would it be so beautiful for just no reason at all?
Because the anthocyanins say so. That's why.
Yeah, I think the real magic is like the way that our brain finds it beautiful.
Yes.
You know, it's like this is this thing that they're just doing. And
I mean, have you ever met somebody who's just like, fall color is ugly? I don't think you have.
I haven't.
I've never heard that before, Alexis.
Yeah.
I was less impressed with it when I was a kid.
I've heard people complain about leaves. Having to pick them up afterwards, but that's good too, right? Just let them be, let things overwinter in them, let them break down and provide nutrients back to the soil, right?
Yeah, that's great news for eco-friendly people. That's great news for lazy people. I happen to be both of those people.
Right?
So like picking up a bunch of leaves and moving them for me, now I'm not a turf grass guy, Ray.
I was going to say, don't let a mat down on a 3-inch like wet, heavy mat on your lawn.
You can't see it, but Alexis is covering her face in rage at just the thought of selectively choosing turf.
Although I will take your leaves
now, so yeah,
I will take. My favorite quote is, "As long as it's green and a reasonable height, I'm happy." So you can imagine, like my lawn at home might just be all wild violet or other things, and I'm fine because it's green. So
whatever your preference.
The leaves aren't going to bother me if they're out on my lawn.
But the other type of more out there garden with the leaf stuff is if you have a moss garden, you don't really want leafies on top of it. But,
true.
You know, we don't have a whole lot of people with moss gardens out there necessarily, but
that's the dream.
Yeah, I have some little patches of moss that I've been cultivating, but I don't. It's like doesn't stay quite wet enough back in my.
Especially
Alexis and I have visited someone's house before who had a moss yard. It was pretty magical.
Wait, whose house was this? I mean, was it Kay's?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, wait, was I there? Do I remember?
You're the one who took me there.
She lived on the river, so she's right. That was why. Yeah, it was
Lots of
all
moisture.
shade, right on the river, so plenty of moisture for your moss garden.
Well, how about this for some fall color or some, winter fall changing color? For me, one of the interesting things that I've noticed more in the last few years, this fall transitional period of September, October is really important for bonsai in a number of ways, but the change in color of conifers and evergreens, that it is evergreen, but there's so many different greens.
Yeah, sure.
And whether that be fading to more of like a kind of a purplish dark green, or whether that be some of the cultivars will actually go to this like bright, crazy yellow.
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse if you're into fishing. I always think of chartreuse as like a little lure. Like that's the first time I ever heard that color. And I think that is another aspect of, we talked about, I think, a little bit on the transitioning to fall episode, but just noticing those shifts and changes in something that is allegedly static, and it's not static at all. I've noticed some pine cones starting to either form and some of them opening on some of the trees around here.
Little baby pine cones.
I always think it's interesting how, you get the fall leaf color prediction models, and I'm always kind of a nerd for that sort of stuff because I do love the fall season and all the colors that we have here in our transitional zone 6 and 7. But it is very difficult to predict. We get the question a lot: are we going to have good fall leaf color this year? And I have never seen. I've seen people that are good at it. They use scientific modeling, weather data. You try to look into the crystal ball and see when the first hard frost is going to be. But you put all those factors together, and then add in, average tree age and all of these other things. It's really hard to predict what kind of overall fall leaf color you're going to have. And I'm always looking at the models, just curious. I'm like, should I go north now, or should I go to the Smokies now? Some of these hot leaf looking spots. And it's really tough. And it's frustrating for me because I want to know the week to go. I want to know the best 3-day span, but it's really difficult to predict that. I know here in Kentucky, we've had extended dry spells here in the last little bit. And I know that does have an impact on certain tree species there's some trees out there that's been dropping leaves for a while now.
Yeah. We've really noticed it in our area where Alexis and I are, that there's a lot of trees already dropping leaves or changing color early, just because it rained like once in the last month. It's been pretty
especially
dry and hot.
Trees. We're getting lots of calls, from, it's not necessarily about leaf color, but lots of folks that have, trees under, 5 years old, 3 to 5 years old. And they're saying, well, what's wrong with our tree? It's dying. Well, if it's not watered, it may just be that it's really dry and it's kind of naturally shutting down. It may not necessarily be dying. But a lot of these trees are kind of shutting down. They don't have extensive enough root systems to sustain them.
Yeah, a baby bur oak that's doing that right now. It literally has 3 leaves left, and I've been watering it through the summer, but I'm just like, oh no, baby bur oak, hold on. And so I continue to water it with its tiny 3 leaves that it has left on it.
Or is it just like a young seedling?
I planted it 2 years ago. So
Gotcha.
So
from an acorn?
I know I bought a tree. That would be magical to plant it from an acorn, though.
Oh, that would be neat, yeah. But I noticed that lots of leaves are on the ground now. I always look when I'm out in the woods kind of walking, and lots of crunchy out there right now, even though our leaves technically haven't, started turning yet.
Speaking of like magical trees, right? We actually have like a publication, well, not publication, but like kind of a UK press release that kind of says like, oh, here's some awesome places around Lexington or other places that you can find like really good tree color. Is it Maxwell maybe? Or I'm thinking of a different road where they have all the big ginkgos that line the streets. And as we all know, ginkgos, they're truly magical when they all turn that bright yellow and the leaves start falling. Yeah. And it's just
all
like
at one time.
All at one time, right? Yeah. Right.
It's just like a carpet overnight.
I believe the tree, ironically, the street, ironically, where all the ginkgos are, is called Catalpa.
Oh yeah, Catalpa Road,
which is a different type of tree.
All together
for those at home. I was gonna say something about the ginkgos because people go sicko for ginkgo in the fall. People on Instagram walking through. I'm sure the people on that street are like, we didn't know this many people lived in Lexington until this day.
photographers are there.
What about favorite maple fall color?
Oh,
Just maple?
specifically.
It's
You got
maple?
silver maples, you got red maples, you got sugar maples, you got Amur maples, you got maybe some Japanese maples mixed in, but that's kind of hard because there's so many weird cultivars with a variety of colors.
I'll re-up this one for you, Brett.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it has to do with color.
Mm.
But we were just talking about, going how to predict and find like the best color. But I find I've noticed for years, and especially with the maples, I will look for maples of a certain age. When I know that a forest fire's burned heavy through an area of the mountains or the woods, and you have trees coming back in succession, that are 6, 8 years old, there is nothing more beautiful than maples that are 6, 8 years old naturally, that have come up after forest fires, or maybe there's just a bunch of young maples in an area. There is nothing more vibrant than any type of maple of a young age. They are always the most beautiful color. As far as there's just something about the way they turn, it just looks like they're on fire. They glow in the woods when you see these young maples that are 6, 8, 10 years old.
Yeah, they're like iridescent almost.
They do. It's absolutely phenomenal. And of all of those, I'm going to be vanilla here. I'm going to show my pumpkin spice latte. I'm going to say sugar maple.
I feel like that's a slightly less vanilla choice. I feel like red maple is the most vanilla choice.
Okay.
Because there are so many red maples planted, right?
Yeah.
So I would go with sugar maple though too.
But the red maples are like spectacular. They're so cool that it's like I'm bored with how amazing this is.
Some of those are just so red that they don't look real. They look fake.
Yeah.
It's so uniformly red.
How would you describe the fall color of sugar maple?
I don't know. It's just a softer. There's gradients in there. Is what I like about it. That's what I like about sugar maples. We've talked a lot about like the yellows. Probably my least favorite. I'm veering off of here a little bit. I base everything on probably like a water maple. You mentioned the different types of maples or the silver maples. They're my least favorite. They're like, I don't know. They're kind of yellowish, dirty yellow. Dull, yeah. And then you progress all the way through to the oranges. You pick up the reds, and then the different types of all the way up through the red maples. They can be there's red maples that's not red. Is that correct? That don't look as red as there are other colors.
Definitely, there's so many different cultivars.
Like the yellow is what I love. You guys already mentioned ginkgos, but the maples that have that yellow color, I really like those. That's why I'm picking not the red maple for my favorite.
Something that Alexis, you want to go?
No, I was just gonna say I have the person who owned this house before me planted red maples around the house, but there's also a big, very old sugar maple. And so it's like you get the kind of yellow in between the two red, and I have a red, like an old brick farmhouse with a red roof, and it is really special just because they're like kind of the only red trees in the area. As you kind of drive down the road.
How dare you be so picturesque?
It's pretty picturesque. There's because it'll be yellow and green everywhere, and then there's just bright, fiery pops as you kind of pop over the hill. And so, it is pretty special. Just saying.
The sugars are one of those that they vary so much too. I mean, I'm thinking of different sugar maple trees, my favorites, and one of them's orangish and one's more yellow.
That's like I have two at my house, and they're more yellowy orange, right? They're more that orange color.
People describe them everywhere from red to pure yellow, and they're all correct. That's one of the reasons I love them.
It's whatever they feel.
If you're a fan of something in that ballpark of kind of creamsicle to goldenrod, a small tree shrub that doesn't get a lot of love necessarily, the Washington hawthorn. Spectacular fall color. It looks kind of in my experience, the ones that I've seen, sometimes they look like a small sugar maple in the fall. If you get the ones that,
Of course, aspens. I mean, if you're in different parts of the country, if you're where there's aspen groves, they can be interesting. The beeches are neat. the ones that like hold on to their leaves for
The
so
little
long.
spookies.
Mm-hmm.
The little
Yes, and
forest
they
spookies.
rattle and carry on. You get that nice, beautiful. We talked about like fall, plants for fall interest in the winter. They have that white bark, and then they hold on to those brown leaves, and it's they're very nice in the fall too. I love those.
Something I've noticed since moving to our farm that I've always liked, but I didn't realize how vibrant they could be, is sassafras.
Oh yeah,
So, like,
yellow.
the ones that we have are, like, red. Like,
You
they're
can they're
so,
different
so
too. Yeah.
bright red
Mm-hmm.
that they catch your eye, and you're like, "What the heck is that over there?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I have, like, trekked across the field to be like, "What is this
They'll have
plant?
a
Do I
gradient of
not know how
color
to
in
ID?"
those.
And then it'd be a sassafras.
Mm-hmm.
And just so, so bright when that sun hits it and just really catches your eye. So pretty.
Have you ever done any like tea or anything with the sassafras?
I
Mm-hmm.
have not.
I've done the bark. Went through this whole extractive process of using the bark for sassafras tea before. Pretty interesting. Very
Was it
tasty.
worth it?
It was because the tree had fallen naturally, and we used to gather a lot of herbs. Just for money off the farm. We had lots of different things in the mountains, but sassafras is one of those that you could sell sassafras leaves for pharmaceutical purposes,
Yeah.
and then not to waste the tree because we would do lots of stuff with. There wasn't anything wasted. But one of the things that grandmother would want was the bark off of that to make sassafras tea. So yeah, I think it was worth it. That's probably the first tea I ever had was sassafras tea. It's very good stuff. Yeah, but sassafras is one of my favorite trees. I love the smell of sassafras and the color in the fall. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's like thinking back to like some of your first experiences with plants, and I remember my parents had like this little plot of land on Cumberland Lake, just like it was probably like a quarter acre, and had nothing on it, and we would just like go tent camping there, and I remember like we'd go out and find sassafras and make sassafras tea over the campfire.
Nice.
And I just thought that was like the coolest thing when I was, 7.
It is the coolest thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like looking back, like thinking how my mom kind of came up with that, and
That's
I don't know.
awesome.
It's fun that you mentioned that. But speaking of like tea, fall color, can we talk about the sumac for a second? Because
That is a good one. Yeah.
you see
And the
sumacs in the
berries
fall.
along with that too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're so I think underappreciated.
It's almost like a cornucopia vibe for me because you combine the berries with the colors. They look so cool when they really have big pods on there. They can be very showy, even naturally out in natural stands of those. They can just be they can look so awesome. And I hadn't thought about that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, and when they're all like clustered together, and they grow in such random. They're not technically random, but places where you don't usually see like trees, right? Like they thick it up in kind of some unrulier places, and so you get this like really special
kind of
pop
early
of color,
successionary understory.
Yeah, in kind of these areas you wouldn't expect them to look nice. So
persimmon's another one that I love in the fall. Love it because it's got that complex orange and yellow coloration. It's not one color usually for our native persimmons, but I like persimmon. It's one of my favorites. It's a smaller tree, mid-story, and it's one that I really enjoy is persimmons.
One that the city of Harrodsburg, maybe we're gonna overplant because we've all all love it and keep using it. But it's serviceberry, right? Because it's one of those natives. It can be like shrub, or you can have it like in a tree form. It has beautiful white flowers in the spring, berries that you can eat as well. You can feed the birds, but the fall color can vary from like this orangey yellow, like really nice pop of fall color. And I assume it probably varies based on like whatever cultivar or whatever that you're getting or type, but they're nice. Like you're looking more for like a shrub or a smaller tree to add to your yard. That's a native as well. It's a very pretty fall color with that one.
Yeah. So if you've got a space where you don't want to put a tree, we've got, you just mentioned serviceberry. Alexis shouted out sumac, and I shouted out Washington hawthorn. The cretaceous stuff is all three. Like I think native shrubs, especially like that, are so underutilized. It feels like, or it's just kind of like they don't get the love that like the big trees do, or that the small little plants do. So shout that out. Well, what about a color that's maybe a fall color that's not so pleasant? all my white pine is turning kind of yellowish color right now. Is it dying?
Just losing those needles, baby.
They get not yet. Give it a couple of years, it will be dead. But before then,
if it's a white pine, it's dying. But not today.
So this time of year, kind of late summer into fall, starts losing those needles, because that's some of them. Some pine trees actually hold on to the needles for a really long time. Most of them around here, though, not as long. Apparently, there's like some bristle cones out in the high whatever. They'll keep needles for like 20 years.
Wow.
They have optimum growing conditions. It's insane that they would hold on to their needles like that. I mean, it's just incredible. We just don't see that in Kentucky for our trees.
Yeah. We're moving nutrients through. We're it's not quite
our trees go through a lot in Kentucky.
Something's always making our evergreens lose needles for good or bad reasons. So
Is there I know we talk a lot about like reds and yellows and oranges, but man, when you see one of those like deep purpley reds, they're not they're not something
like an oak tree,
huh?
Like a red oak.
Some of the oaks are.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's not that many. I mean, it used to be the ash. And
black gum?
Black gum is the one I
Ash
think of.
is one of my favorites. In the past, I loved ash. And the black gum and sweet gum. I mean, sweet gums to a lesser extent.
I think ash is going to be like more of a quote unquote true purple, like more plummy than and the other ones like the oaks and stuff are more on the like burgundy, but like still that purpley color. I have a black gum that was like it was the second tree I planted on the farm was a black gum. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be so pretty one day.
You ever have kookaburras that sit in there?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
Just checking, right?
It was just a quick vibe check.
Just checking. Has anybody mentioned sourwood? That's another little, it's a smaller tree.
Oh, Ray, good shout.
Sourwood. Somebody was talking about like mid-sizers. It's one of the ultra classics for me is sourwood. I grew up with a lot of
sweet gum to sourwood. It's like
indeed.
We're sour than they're sweet.
Gambit. Yes, it's all good. I was trying to think what else. What other smaller things like vining or trellising? I mean, like berries. I'm trying to think. We talked some about the plants for winter interest. You can get more ornamental brambles, but as far as like natively what occurs, I can't think of a lot of color in those. Can you guys?
Smoke bush. So I mean,
it
has
true.
potential of color kind of all year, different shades of it. But right now, my smoke bush is looking pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then I mean, we talked about pawpaw on our pawpaw episode. Has really great like that pretty gold.
Yeah,
and
the
big,
gold
big
yellow
fat leaves get pretty color.
Some of the dogwoods.
Oh yeah, and the shrub dogwoods too are really pretty. Yeah.
So just briefly a little shout out for our colorblind friends out there. I think that there's also elements of like the form of fall that can be really cool, like when some of the grasses start to die back and they're still there. And I said shout out to the colorblind people, but the color of it's actually pretty cool too. But the form of like some of those, either the dead like herbaceous stuff that dies back to the ground, but all that biomass is woody enough to hang in place. I mean, there's a reason why people do cut flower or dried cut flower bouquets. It's because there's something really strange and striking and something about that, like life in a dead form. I don't know. It's really cool.
Season.
Yeah, it's very metal.
Seven Suns. Speaking of like form, I think of Seven Suns tree, Heptacodium, and what is it? Paper bark maple or paper bark? There's another one. Paper bark elm.
Oh,
the paper bark elm, I think, is the one I'm thinking of. They have some outside of some of the buildings on campus, outside the plant science building, and yeah, those are just
those elms. Yeah,
leaves, no leaves, color, no color. Those are pretty phenomenal in the landscape and can be a little bit smaller. Of a tree. So.
Before we run out of time, I want to know, because I'm greedy and I'm always looking for the best spots to see fall color, but I want to hear from you guys locally. And we're all kind of in central Kentucky here. But if you drive a couple hours, that's fine too. But what's your all's favorite places to go? Like, do you have a go-to spot for fall color to leaf peep?
I say take advantage. If you go to football games this time of year, we like to park on the other side of the Arboretum and walk through to get to the stadium. And I have walked through sometimes right at peak fall color through the Arboretum. That has been fantastic, where I have stopped and taken photos of trying to like not get all the people or the drunk football fans in the photo and have the bright blue fall, sky with all the maples they have and all the different varieties of trees that are just like popping, right? Like right in the sun. So that's like an easy one to get to when fall color is like really peak.
There's a lot of little like small arboretums. I know there's Western Kentucky University has like a nice little arboretum down there that they have a lot of different cultivars and species where you're going to see those like different pops of color. Northern Kentucky has the zoo, but also the Boone County Arboretum. They're all gonna when you have places like that are gonna have lots of different species, you're gonna see lots of those different shades of color. So from that perspective, if you just want to see a bunch of different color, any type of little arboretum or
I imagine Alexis and I have been there a couple times, but UDEL up in Louisville, I imagine they have a lot of different fall color going on.
UDEL, and then of course if you're looking for natural out in the elements. Ray's favorite home away from home, Red River Gorge.
Oh yeah, they have lots of nice areas. My favorite trail there is Oxshire Ridge. Just look it up. You're going to find it. It was listed as like one of the top 10 places to leaf look in the eastern U.S. It's
AUXIER. It's also just a cool trail with some cool rock features, and it's a good shot, right?
Beautiful overlooks. Yeah. It's one of my favorites.
We haven't really gone many places like for that reason per se, but my wife's from Eastern Pennsylvania, and so we end up kind of going up through Appalachia, up through West Virginia, into Maryland, up into Pennsylvania, and there's if you time it right, it's pretty beautiful. You can see some of the like species transition towards some of those older oak forests and some of the stuff that's been cut and regrown. You can see too. But I don't know that one of our friends just moved up to Vermont, which is like one of the baller leaf places, I think. Like that's like, where the true leaf heads go.
Yeah. Get the early leaf color up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like right now.
I love one of my favorite things in the world in that area is when you see leaf color, but you also have these beautiful big swaths of evergreens and the transitions between an evergreen zone and deciduous.
Yeah.
There's nothing more awesome to me than that contradiction there. I love it.
Yeah. And like the elevation difference too of like you could see like a really moist like beech and maple stand, and then it kind of transitions to oaks and then transitions up to some.
You get these awesome overviews. You just see so many strata there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things about that trail. You said Oxshire Ridge, you get like a good sense of that like elevation change in a way that we don't really have a ton of that in like Kentucky, the way that they do out west, at least, where it's within a short little manageable span. You can see this variability and difference.
Awesome. Well, it's fall season. It's leaf color. It's, last time I asked what your fall like flavors are and, Halloween candy. So embrace the season of fall, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm mostly trying to tell myself that. I'm like, just
you have trouble embracing it?
It's like I'm almost scared to embrace it because I know all of the transition that comes with it. So I'm like, no. Not yet. I'm not ready yet.
Just easy.
Fall is the new spring.
Are we ever ready, Alexis?
We're never ready. That's why it's still 90 degrees outside when we're recording this. So. But anyways, we hope you enjoyed just something a little fun. Maybe you got some ideas for that new tree or a new little spot you want to put a nice shrub with some good color. Hopefully you pulled out some ideas for that, or maybe just a cool trail to go see here over the next couple weeks. And that's a cool trail to see any time of year. But if you've got any questions about trees, whether or not any of these trees might do well in your space or not, you can feel free to shoot us an email. We've got that link in the show notes. You can also follow us on Instagram at Horticulture Podcast. You can drop us a line there, comment on a photo, and just, tell us how much you love a tree or maybe your favorite fall tree. Actually, drop that as a review. Tell me your favorite fall tree. I want to know. And while you're at it, give us a few stars. 5 would be great. Just throwing it out there for you. We really appreciate it.
I would just do what she says. It's easier that way.
Just do what I say. It's easier that way. He's right. But we really thank you all for being with us today. And we hope that as we grow this podcast, you'll grow with us and you'll join us next time. Have a great one.